worried that you might be the cool kid? You wear the latest fashions on top of all the trends. Or have you ever worried you were too much in the mainstream? Always so generic, more normal than your friends. Well, we've devised a test to put to rest your fears. There's no need to panic if you lend us your ears. Tonight you can't sleep easy after all that you've heard. Cause if you like the show, then you're probably a nerd. Oh, Canon, it's Canon, it's all. Tyler, Phil, and Boris. So Canon, it's Canon, it's all in Canon.
It's Monday, and you know what that means? It's time for a new episode of the It's Canon podcast, a show where we like to chat about anything and everything. And the best part of it all is that it's all in canon. We're your hosts. I'm Boris, and this week I am joined by Phil.
I hope everybody enjoyed our soothing adult contemporary tones.
Exactly. And a returning, hopefully healthy, Tyler.
I've just become that really, this is an old reference, but that bit with Montgomery Burns from The Simpsons where he has all the illnesses and they all balance out. Because we got COVID again, and I got sick, and then I got better, but I'm now better than I was with long COVID before getting sick. So, I don't know. Maybe I can.
So that's a thing.
Second time's a charm.
Wow. Exactly. Jesus Christ. Sounds like it was hell, though, man. Are you better? I'm glad you're better. I'm glad to see you back. I was, that made my day. Corporate America kicked my ass today, so there was nothing better than getting that message. I'm back. I'm alive. Awesome.
For those in the audience, I feel better than last time I was on the show.
Yeah.
I lifted heavy objects today and didn't die. Which is someone who's
the weight of the world, the pressures of everyday life, the.
I mean, honestly, I wish it was all those things. It was just like I moved some wood because my heating is by wood and it's we're gonna get frost overnight.
Man, this weather is honestly crazy. Like, I feel sorry for anyone who has arthritis because, a lot of people with arthritis really feel it when it goes from from winter to spring. But I honestly feel like this year we've gone through this 3 or 4 times where it's gone from cold to hot, back to cold, back to hot, back to cold. This change of weather has been just excruciating for some people.
Well, I mean, in channeling our complete old person, what's the swing of temperatures there today for y'all?
It's I don't know, actually. I haven't even looked at how it is outside. Okay. I don't know, what is it right now? It's 18 degrees. 18 Tonight, degrees. I think it's going to drop down to 10.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because it was 22 at 2 p.m. today here. It is currently 5, and it's going to go below freezing overnight.
Whoa. That's exactly it right there, right? Yeah. That's just crazy. That's just crazy. Phil, don't move out of East.
I know, right?
I mean, or do. Who's to say?
Yeah. Whatever floats your boat.
It's good sleeping weather.
You can now grow olives and figs here because of global warming.
Fair.
There you go. Jesus Christ, what a crazy thing. What a crazy world it's been. So, on this week's episode, we're going to be doing our usual chats, catching up, geeking out, nerding out, seeing what we're reading, we're playing, and what we're watching. And then we're going to get into our topic du jour, which is going to be all about the writer's strike, which is going to be affecting, in my opinion, a lot more shows than it did last time because, the schedules are different. It's not just a October to May schedule for television anymore. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the big issues, and we're going to probably shit on Netflix a little bit. So it's par for course. So it's really no different than a lot of our episodes. Tyler, what's up?
I was going to say Warner Brothers is the biggest target for me today with my notes for that.
Oof.
Warner Brothers, huh? Let me think. So no more House of Dragon episodes. Sure. AEW might hate me. Okay, cool. I'll keep that in mind.
No. this is a foreshadowing bit, but did you know that the entire Writers Guild of America ask, all of it, all of the pay increases for all 11,000 writers is less than the CEO of Warner Brothers took home last year?
Did you know? Again, I forget the number. I'm gonna try to find this stat. Maybe you can help, Tyler, because you're very fast at this stuff. The money that they've already lost, studios that is more than what they're asking for in compensation.
I did not find that, and the only reason I would be a little bit skeptical is because Hollywood accounting, which we've talked about.
Yes.
Right? Because you got to remember, like
that's exactly what
Star
I was
Wars
thinking.
New Hope has still not broken even.
Yeah.
They will never pay those royalties.
Yeah. Oh God, no. Oh God, no. But I'm gonna try to find it because again, it was just one of those things that I saw in passing, right? Jesus Christ, that sounded crazy. Yeah, no, it sounded like an explosion or something out there. Maybe it is the end of the world. We don't know anymore.
Explosion story since I last talked to y'all.
All right, so let's just get into this. You know what, Tyler? Because it's been forever, we haven't even caught up. What's going on in the life of Tyler?
So I'm going to do a couple of non-nerdy things first. But yeah, my partner and I both got COVID again last week after just like, we were both just feeling cruddy for a while. We got COVID. Over the weekend, our neighbor's house exploded.
What?
Like, cops have not released why, but where I live, out on the East Coast, a lot of people's heating is via oil or propane, which means that a lot of these people have these great big tanks outside their house, which are full of oil or propane. And a house around the corner from me, somehow the propane tank exploded at about 2 a.m. And like, this is like 2 doors down.
Yeah.
Like, this is right near my house. And like, the house is a write-off. The car is a write-off. Their shed, which was about 20 feet from the house, the wooden structure of the shed is fine, but the vinyl siding has all melted and run off.
Oh man.
It was terrifying to like wake up at 3 a.m. and be like, oh, that's a lot of sirens. What's happening?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was spooky.
That is crazy. I gotta find a better placement for these chats. But
just cover my
Randy,
face.
Yeah, good. Oh, you can just move the fuck over. Just move the fuck. There we go. Just stand like that all episode. We're good. So Randy, hooray! It's Canon. Boo! Explosions. I'm on you 100%. And hey, Randy, thank you for listening. Randy is the one of the powers that be over at SNME Radio. So.
There we go. It's like our boss.
So there you go. Yeah, no, dude, that's great. So is everything okay with your house?
I mean, my house is fine. We got off of oil because my partner and I both have anxiety, and we both were like, I don't love a giant oil tank in the basement, literally below our bed. So we had this joke of, we're like, oh yeah, no, if anything goes wrong, we're dead instantly. Our house is fine. Like, literally every house around it is fine, but that house is a write-off. Like, it's terrifying. That house is a write-off. One of their cars is a write-off. Like, the car's still there because, like, the car exploded, which is terrifying. Yeah. But we're now, like, we've joined the neighbor, like, for small town madness, we've joined the neighborhood watch because they had 4 cats, and we're all, like, on the watch for the 4 cats. We're all going to do some baking and make sure they have some stuff in their hotel room.
Oh,
I'm genuinely happy to do, and I love like the community coming together. But it's very funny of just like, well, everyone's okay, and the cats seem to have survived. Like, they all booked it out of there. So
these cats knew what was coming. They're like, we got to get out of here, guys.
Oh God, yeah, it's
no more mousing tonight. We're all going out for a walk.
But other than that, it's been a lot of audiobooks and a lot of video games, which has been good.
Nice. What are you playing? What's been on your repertoire?
So I've been tearing through the extra content and DLC for Breath of the Wild.
Yes.
Which
I feel like everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people that I know have been replaying Breath of the Wild this week. Alex, whenever you're listening, get me my game back. In preparation for this Friday's release of Tears of the Kingdom. Like, it's crazy how many people I know replaying this game.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a phenomenal game. It's fantastic. The DLC for Horizon Forbidden West, which again, the writing is great. The acting is sublime. It's sad seeing Lance Reddick now.
Yeah.
The fighting machines remains like that's what the game is for. It's fighting machines is just a fantastic fun puzzle. The exploration is better than the main game, but that wasn't hard. And then Jedi Survivor, which is we almost need to do like a deep dive on the writing for that game because it's so uneven. Have either of you played it yet?
No, not yet.
I am a good portion. Like I wouldn't say I'm anywhere near half, but I'm over a third, I figure, of the way.
So when the person who we are led to believe is the big bad arrives,
Not there yet. Okay.
then you're not halfway.
Yeah.
He's like less than a third of the way into the game.
Oh, maybe I've just been not paying attention because I've been really having fun with the puzzles. But anyhow, go on.
The puzzles are fantastic in that.
Yeah.
No, when the person who he might not end up being the big bad, but you're led to believe he is arrives. That scene is the worst writing I have seen in my life. Like it's the worst writing in Star Wars.
I know who you're talking about. Okay, yes.
Yeah, when he arrives, he shows up.
Yeah.
And he immediately like minimal spoilers.
Yep.
This is a person who does not like you let them out of a back to tank. And I feel comfortable because this was in the trailers. And he instantly is like, by the way, I'm a villain. And I'm like, he doesn't even try to lie to you. He's like, no, by the way, I am evil. And your character's like, hey, you don't have to be. We can talk about this. And he's like, nope, I'm pretty evil. And it's like, oh my God, Star Wars.
Well,
please, I want to love you.
Let's put it this way. I'm not actually, I thought we were talking about somebody else. So that being said, I know I'm really close to that point, so it's not a surprise to me.
Wait.
I am going to watch it for the bad acting, but
the acting is fine.
Oh, sorry, the bad writing.
The writing is some of the worst I've ever seen.
The writing. And the thing is like right now I'm out of my element in this Star Wars game because this isn't really a spoiler, but it's really leaning on New Republic stuff. Old Republic. Sorry, the High Republic. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
High Republic. Yeah. And I've not really read any of the books, comics, or anything. And I know that it's been in its own little vacuum world in Star Wars Bubble Land. It's got its own Star Wars show. It goes at the cons at a different time. Yeah. At Star Wars Celebration, stuff like that. It doesn't get a lot of camera time yet. And I understand the writers are very excited because I do follow a lot of them. And it's interesting because I'm grappling a little bit with it's fun, but it's also, I don't know, there's just a weird feel about it, but I guess it's its own feel. And that's not a bad thing. It's just I'm not used to it yet.
I think part of that's the writing because I have never seen a game with more uneven writing. Because you'll get scenes and side quests that I would argue is some of the best writing I've ever seen in a game. And then you'll get someone like, anyways, here's why I'm a bad guy.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
I know that when I rescued that robot thing.
Yeah.
I was doing that and I literally was looking at the way he was entangled in what he was entangled in. And I'm like, well, you could just move his arm that way and he'll be out of that. But apparently that held him there for all that time. So I'm just
thousands of years.
Yes, and he had his arm around a rope. I'm just like, okay, it didn't take much to stump these droids, apparently.
Like, I'm willing to let that go a little bit of just like limitations of the graphic engine, but you're coming up on a point where it's like someone shows up and they're like, anyways, hello, fellow Jedi. please wait a moment while I bleed my kyber crystal in front of you. And it's like, okay, but why would you do that? Like, why would you not lie to this person?
Yeah. There's a lot of weird stuff in this game, but hey, I'm happy to say on the PS5, at least,
Gorgeous.
it is not broken as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed.
I'm having a good time with it.
Agreed.
Honestly, I don't know. Everyone's talking about how this game is broken, but everyone that I've spoken to, chatted to, whatever, has says the game is fine.
Yeah. As far
Except
as
for PC users.
Yeah, PC users are the ones that are affected. I get their anger, but I will say on the console side, I feel like it was close to as good of a launch as you can get. Sure, there's patches still rolling, but that's okay.
Here's the thing.
150 gigabytes. Ugh.
The anger coming from the PC users.
100%.
But at the same time, after 30 years of listening to PC users playing the holier than thou game, I'm kind of a little happy.
Yeah, it's the price of PC gaming.
Wait.
Yeah.
Why would
that's
you
exactly
get mad
it.
at other PC users and not mad at a corporation for just being like, hey, just delay the release. It's not ready. Like that's get mad at, right?
No. This is the joking around Boris, right? Of course, these companies need to smarten the fuck up. Clearly, you haven't listened to Phil and I just constantly every week basically saying how broken the video game industry is.
Like, look, they could have released it on the consoles and not on the PC until
for sure.
Like,
sorry, it's not ready.
Sony does that for years with Last of Us and other titles. They just don't release it on PC.
Wow.
Spider-Man. Yeah, exactly. How about this cash grab, huh? They're redoing Spider-Man 1 for PS5 now. And if you already have it on the PS4, you can upgrade to it for $10 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. We're going to go so much into this later.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, big time. There was something I wanted to talk about, but I completely forgot what it was because I just started thinking, haha, PC
television,
users.
books.
Yeah, it's something about video games. Something about video games. Hate the two of you right now. Like I said, today's going to be a weird day for me. Yeah, welcome back, Tyler.
Anarchy reigns supreme on the Canon podcast.
Anarchy.
Forgot what it was. Yeah, I honestly completely forgot what it was. Oh, I was reading this article earlier. It wasn't really an article. It was this video from a very popular gaming website, and it was more of an editorial. So let's get that clear. It was more of an editorial, and their whole thing was people need to stop trying to make Destiny clones. And I'm thinking, yeah, number one, let's be honest, that's not going to stop anytime soon. It's kind of like that's the equivalent of saying, hey, stop making Battle Royale games. Stop making Fortnite clones.
I was going to say, this feels like a decade after. People need to stop trying to make WoW clones. And it's like, yeah.
People need to stop making GTA clones. Yeah, games are popular. People.
Yeah, they made the perfect one. Simpsons Hit and Run.
Fact. Have any of you guys? So I haven't picked up Jedi Survivor yet. I'm just that busy. Last week was like the week from hell for me. This weekend is looking a lot better, so I have a lot of video gaming to do. But another game that I'm actually going to be picking up from a buddy because they gave up with it already, and that's Redfall.
Oh, I've installed it. I haven't touched it yet.
Boris, did you I think this is a Ring situation. I think you're fucked.
Why?
Well, because Redfall's apparently Redfall's not a very good game, is what I've heard.
Oh, I know. I'm not.
No, but I'm saying this is the Ring. He got you to watch it. Now you need to get someone else to watch it, or you will die. Redfall is a curse.
It took me a second. Hey Phil, what are you doing with your extra time?
Don't
Andrew
try it.
Kapolka, what are you doing with your extra time? Yeah, so
I
I'm hearing
installed it.
really bad
I'm
things.
scared to fire it up because of the ring. No.
Oh, so funny.
No,
So funny.
there,
I wish.
apparently Kotaku is getting pushback now because they ran an article exposing the sources of where you could get the new Zelda game for the emulators.
People are bitching
Yeah.
about Kotaku. Say it ain't so.
Right?
Yeah. So they're taking a lot of heat for basically publishing an article telling people about what they found, which is kind of the point, isn't it?
Oh,
I don't know.
If you don't like it,
People-
don't read the article. Like,
Yeah.
Look, there's an entire subreddit called R Kotaku in Action that's just bitching about Kotaku's too woke. Kotaku's too like it's like
Yeah.
I have a whole thing on this, and I don't like Kotaku. I think is subpar, but it's amongst like you're competing with IGN, like where it's
Whoa.
like, you know, Redfall got a 9 out of 10 because they bought the ads. Like it's we don't have good like if you actually
they
were someone
previewed
who,
it like a month early, and we're like, "Oh, this game's hot, guys. We're telling you." They didn't
right, and
once
it's just like
mention it's hot garbage.
yeah, like for anyone who bitched about ethics in game journalism and then was like Kotaku sucks, it's like you're just a hypocrite. You're just lying to yourself because this is a company that even if you disagree with them has been like, yeah, we just don't get a bunch of previews anymore because we reviewed games honestly. Like,
Hey man, the only way I know a critic is good if he doesn't get codes for certain vendors.
right?
Yeah.
That's actually like drawing me into their content. Okay, so you're not going to give me buttered up bullcrap. Thank you.
Right? Like,
Yeah, and that's why like I'm leaning more and more towards never using free previews and stuff, and us just doing what we do best, right? Anyways, anything else that you're playing, Tyler? Question mark? You can answer.
stupid game called The Roots of Patra. I backed it on Kickstarter. It's Harvest Moon meets Caveman Times. It's dumb and I love it.
That sounds hilarious.
I'm sitting
love
here
it.
like, what if I add tomatoes and sesame seeds? Does that make food? Who knows? like genuinely, it's like if you like Harvest Moon, it's just Harvest Moon and Caveman Times. It's cute, it's calming. It's the Harvest Moon clone, right? Like it's better than any of the recent Harvest Moon games. It's a little bit more in-depth and complicated than Stardew Valley. Kind of. That's what you're looking for. Like, you know what it is. You know what the game is from all that.
Yeah. That's a perfect description of it.
I saw a person pitch a game last week being May the 4th. And I can't believe that they haven't done this. I actually just sat there staring at this tweet going, I'd play that. And what happens if you make an Animal Crossing clone with Grogu and have different Jedi appearing on your Animal Crossing island that you go and commune with and whatnot? And I'm just like, that is so EA, Lucasfilm, somebody who's got their hands on rights. Like, that is just, go print money, please.
I got some goddamn news for you, Phil.
Oh, no.
There's gardening in Jedi Survivor later on.
Yes, I love a good garden.
You gotta unlock the gardening minigame, and then you get the gardener. This is real content. There's a fishing minigame. There's a auto battler minigame. There's a bunch of minigames to unlock. So you're like, I'm like halfway, and I'm like, you haven't met the guy yet. You're maybe a quarter.
Yeah. Oh no, I think I'm closer to a third. Like,
no.
No.
If you haven't met Dagon yet, nope.
Okay. Yeah, I'm close. I am by the Rad Brad's thumbnails on his YouTube channel. I am one part away from.
Have you unlocked bounty hunter missions yet?
I think I just did last night.
Okay, because that's like all of a sudden like, wait, they have Shadow of Mordor in here? What's happening?
Well, Last night I made a lot of progress, but I don't know where I'm at with everything other than the Rad Brad's guide. So I watch him make mistakes, then I make mistakes.
Solid.
Took me a while to get through that puzzle room. Because
have you gotten the cross guard yet?
No, I know.
Oh, the cross guard's so fun. Oh.
I'm enjoying just having the fighting stances and the selection of customization that we do get in the game is very good off the bat. So
yes,
full credit to them for that, because it's just kind of fun. But it's I do enjoy the little interaction interplay with BD1. A lot of comforting stuff carrying over from Fallen Order.
And the book.
And the book. I still haven't finished the book, but I've reattempted it. It's better than I remember. So, what are you up to, Boris?
I've been so busy this past week. It's been absolutely crazy. I've kept up with a lot of TV shows. That's basically what I do in my spare time. So Ted Lasso, I'm all caught up with.
Yep.
Started watching that Amazon Prime show, Citadel. It's stupid, but it's fun. It's good enough to watch. It's spies stuff. What more can you say? It's a little campy, like True Lies, but I like it. It's fun for what it is, and I'll probably keep watching that. What else have I been watching? Obviously, keeping up to date with all my reality TV, because that's what keeps me going. In terms of video games, honestly, like I'm literally, when you guys were talking about something, I was looking at, hey, I gotta start playing Resident Evil 4 Remake. It's literally right here, right beside me, and I'm like, no, I haven't started that yet. So hopefully, like I said, this weekend, my plan is to essentially, outside of the radio show, take the weekend off and just catch up on my video games, play some Jedi Survivor, maybe at the same time, just to spice up my life, play some Tears of the Kingdom. I'll see what happens. I might just wait for that when I'm done Resident Evil. We'll see. We'll see what happens when I'm done Resident Evil and Survivor, right? Like, I got a lot of stuff to get through.
I pre-ordered my Zelda, but I was so late on the pre-order, it's not getting delivered until next week.
Gross.
So you're the second round. The second round of...
I'm okay with that. I'm just like, hey, I don't need to be there day one. Thank you. I got Survivor. But there's a new show on Apple TV Plus, Silo.
Based on the Wool series.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I've heard fantastic things about. I watched the first episode. I've yet to watch. Usually they drop the first 3. I was surprised at the caliber of acting in it and the actors involved.
Yeah.
Nice.
Again.
So nice. They do a great job on Apple TV.
Apple TV has quality, right? Netflix, you'll find, for the most part, Apple is quality. There's a bar, at least eternally, at Apple for what they think they should release. Whereas in Netflix, it's like, let's release as much as we can, and people will eventually watch it. People will find it. The strategy between the two companies are very different, I think.
Counter example. Schmigadoon.
Oh, I like Schmigadoon.
I like it too. It's not good.
No, it's campy and silly, but it's meant to be campy and silly. So it's done well. Right? Go to Netflix and watch like some of their campy stuff that doesn't even know it's campy. Like I swear to God, not the creatives per se, but some of the production teams live in the washroom. Like that their status is terrible at Netflix for what gets on there.
But I mean, the difference is as Apple TV doesn't need to create content to the same degree that Netflix does, right?
Yeah.
I think that's probably why, in my mind, I have it in my mind, they take quality over quantity because,
that's their mandate.
Just the sheer number of releases. That's what they want. And I stopped halfway just because, like, Tyler must be... I don't know. I was about to call you Kyle. I haven't even talked to Kyle in, like, years, and there I am still calling you Kyle from time to time. Anyways, I know you're looking at a screen that has a lot of weight because you just went full Casper on me.
I'm trying.
I love it. That's why I stopped halfway through. But yeah, so try just doing my thing, and one thing that I'm really sad about is even though I haven't really kept up to date in terms of collecting a lot of comic books. Like I'm reading maybe 1 or 2 maximum right now, both Image. In that I for the first year in I don't even know how long, I didn't participate at all during new comic or free comic book day.
Whoa. I don't even have a comic book store in town anymore.
No?
I literally like the closest comic book store for me is is Toronto.
Wait, where are you again?
In Newmarket. We had one here owned by a guy who I went to high school with, Steve Gilbert. And here's what happened in town, okay? He had a comic store called Fourth Dimension Comic. And he had to get out of there.
I know Tyler's looking it up
map?
right now to prove you wrong.
No, I was just curious.
No, there is no comic book store in town
he's
unless it's brand new. Like,
Like,
I Googled it even. I was just like, there's got to be a place to get books. And I couldn't find anything except like Richmond Hill type place. So,
oh God.
Nothing even in Aurora or anything?
no, nothing in Aurora. There
Damn.
never really has been in Aurora.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Aurora's- People come here. But what's happening on our main street in town is that it's gentrifying, right? It's getting a lot of bars. It's getting a lot of young people. It's getting a lot of excitement as far as that end of the community. You know, the yuppies are moving in to our
Look,
town.
you have a coffee shop owned by Pete McKinnon. Need we say more?
Pete McKinnon just opened a coffee shop the other week that is part coffee shop, part tattoo parlor, and part reseller of his YouTube merch.
Well, yeah.
And
Like,
he's got
what
his
else?
YouTube
How else
studio
do you get rid
upstairs.
of it?
Yeah, and he's got his YouTube studio upstairs. Like, that's
I
pretty
mean-
awesome, but it's just this weird space for town because it's like a whole bunch of geriatrics.
And it's right in the middle of downtown, of their quote unquote downtown, right?
Yeah,
It's where the Made in Mexico
It's
used
where
to be. Yeah.
I'm just like, what?
I mean, a little bit of a spicy take right now. Having run a comic book store, I mean, I think part of the problem with that is comic book stores, broadly speaking, have not kept up with the times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of like the number of comic book stores that were in a great position to be like, I mean, think about the number that could become board game cafes, and you still could do comics and make money off of that.
Yeah.
And you'd have your tea and coffee, even just like an old timey cafe. If like we don't do booze, like do like chocolate bars, bags of chips, coffee and tea, and pop. You don't need a food license. That's anything fancy for
Silver
those.
Snail does this.
Silver Snail does this. A few places do it. But you'd be able to do your Magic the Gathering. All of a sudden, you could host your events because you're doing your in-store play anyways, and you'd increase your finances on it. Then you could
Don't
still
you
do
remember
comics.
my comic book store downtown, the $1 Million Comics, who had the tables set up for their weekly games, their nightly games. I shouldn't say weekly games, right? Like, that's what you have to do. You have to expand past just comics. I think the idea of a sole comic book store is an idea that's not gonna get you the revenue. Look at Gotham. They have the second half that sells candy and sweets from the States.
Well, and I
will
would think
say-
that it's. I don't.
I
I
will-
was gonna. Okay,
Sorry.
go for it. Go for it, Phil. Go for it.
No, I will say in Steve's defense, just in case Steve or somebody
Yeah.
who knows Steve is listening, Steve did have regular events in his store for gaming. He curtailed his comic book selection to the clientele. Like what was in demand was what he bought in. He managed that store smarter than Bob and Clayton did before him.
Yeah, you've mentioned,
he
For
was
sure.
very business savvy. He was really good at it. The fact is that when he went, because this got reported in the town newspaper, when he went to renew his lease had quadrupled.
Oh yeah, this
Like,
is me.
and he's just like, I can't go into debt to open the store.
No, that's
I
a
want it to
whole
be
different
open.
story.
Yeah, that's the
I'm talking-
downtown story here. for
Well,
us.
that's downtown everywhere. I mean,
Yes.
we have the next town over has a mall that it's like I walk through that mall and I'm like, I could open a board game cafe in here
Yeah.
And then I look at then I remember what they're asking for unit rent, and I'd be paying the same as I would have in Guelph, and I'm like, this is a town of 6,000 people.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's ridiculous.
Well, it's I mean, now we're getting into weird tax law and stuff. Yeah, I don't want to. I'm not on any specific.
No, okay, great. Like but there is a
person.
way to run a store, and you definitely are the authority on that. Like,
No, yeah, and it's a thing of the industry as a whole, right? Because we all know that, like, you can be a store, like, you can be a just comics if you're in Toronto or New York, if you have a good enough bit, but like Chapters doesn't sell just books.
Exactly. And the big comic book stores,
crap I don't need, like candles that smell funny.
But other people do.
I know.
There are big comic book stores in Toronto, in New York, who I would say they're more of a tourist trap than anything else.
Yeah.
Which is great for them. They pay rent, right?
But that's the business model.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's exactly it.
For a while there, Silver Snail was exactly that, right? Like,
yeah.
Yep.
When they were on Young, they were like, they had to because of that.
Yeah.
But now that they're back on Queen, and it's
even
a whole different. I haven't
Queen
even
Street,
been to their new location.
Like, I'll say it. Like, I've been into the Queen Street store,
the new one.
Yeah,
or
the old one I've been in.
Yeah, everyone. Yeah.
And the thing is that their prices weren't anywhere near the best, but they had the selection. If you knew you wanted something, you were going to find it there. Like, there was no doubt about it. You were going to pay 10 to 20% more in most cases, unless it's a competitive marketplace like a marked up comic. But I mean, for collectibles and DVDs, I found them a bit pricey, but I knew it was there. Whereas it was hit or miss anywhere else that sold DVDs. Luck of the draw, consistently stocked there. So if you go in and buy Ghost in the Shell special edition, whatever, they reorder it and they get it back.
What really sucked was when HMV started getting anime and stuff like that, because they priced out a lot of comic book stores that did stuff like that. And then HMV priced themselves out, right? Like,
Future Shop did that too.
Yeah.
They got anime and good luck. Like, it obliterated my trips to Silver Snail.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. So short story long, first year I haven't participated in Free Comic Book Day, but from all accounts, looked like everyone that I know had a blast. Congrats to everyone. I know that Fearless Fred and Adam were at Gotham, and looks like they had a very good time. I have other friends who just visited the comic book stores. I know that there's a store out east around your hood, Tyler, because I know some people who live around there, and they had some fun on Saturday morning doing that. So it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks that I wasn't able to partake, but get busy sometimes, and that was that. Phil, how's everything in the world of Phil?
Oh, I've talked enough. You guys all know I played Jedi Fallen Survivor. Watch Silo. Watch Ted Lasso. I'm a happy guy. World's coming up roses. Looking forward to Ted Lasso tomorrow night. And I can't believe it's almost over.
I know.
It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. I gotta say.
What's wrong, Tyler?
I was just say, thank God it's almost over.
I knew you were
fair.
say that.
I know it's not for everybody. I know.
No.
It's not.
I loved season 1 and 2. I think this is by far the worst season.
Really? I found last week's episode was slow. Wasn't my favorite, but I liked where it went. The 2 weeks before that were absolutely like showstoppers for me.
It's interesting. There's something about this season, Phil. You and I have talked about this, that you and I can relate to a lot of things in this season when we were part of the soccer community, right? And I think that like for us, because we relate to some of the things that are happening, it speaks to us. And then you add all the campy weirdness about their personal lives, right? I can 100% see, because I know that Tyler's sentiment is shared by a lot of people that I know.
Yeah, I have seen it.
I will reserve final judgments at the end of the season, and I think we should do a retrospective and dive deep into it, right? Because
that's the plan.
I would argue I would argue if Ted Lasso is only hitting you two, it's as a product, it's failed.
Oh
Well,
no,
yeah.
I have friends who are absolutely head over heels for the third season.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
Like,
I have friends who loathe it. Here's the thing, though. I feel like Ted Lasso was put in a weird position because of the MLS deal.
Yes,
And I have a feeling that they're...
I think it's a weird position in the sense that they wanted to do character progression and they started off with a comedy, right? They started off with a bit that was an NBC bit. And
yeah, I could
the
see that.
first season was a lot of humor about American guy in Britain. The second season, to me, is where you started shaking some people off the bandwagon potentially, because if you're not predisposed to counseling or seeking help, that season might not resonate as hard, right? Like there are certain life experiences that people have that make the show endear to them, as well as Jamie's father and stuff like that. There were all kinds of episodes that can resound. This season's on a little bit of an outlier, but I think that we draw comfort in the football. But I also get a lot of enjoyment out of the characters right now, even though they are acting weird. Like, and so do my friends. But I'm curious, Tyler, did you watch Shrinking?
No, I Ash and I tried it and made it less than 10 minutes.
Wow. Okay.
It was and that's not me saying it's a bad show, because I will say, like, there are shows out there that I can be like, this is a good show, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
Versus arguing something's a bad show. Like, those are two very different takes.
Yes.
And I am not arguing Shrinking's a bad show. I also I don't want to go too deep into Ted Lasso right now, because I feel like that all of a sudden will become an essay that the episode's about.
Yeah.
I also want to foreload. It's still better television than a lot of what we're getting.
Fair.
Like, it's that
100%.
thing of we binged and finished Poker Face. And I was like, this is a bad episode of Poker Face, to one of the episodes. And Ash was like, I thought it was good. And I'm like, no, it's bad for Poker Face, which is a phenomenal show.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes you get on weird curves, right? Like, I feel like Ted Lasso season 3 is I feel like it's a lot worse than 1 and 2.
I agree.
But
I do agree with that. I do agree.
That doesn't mean, like, I'm not, like, it's still better than Mando got in season 3.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, what is wrong with me today? It's like,
We
I have a
should get to
point,
the writers'
forgetting the point. We will get to the writers right after two things I quickly want to talk about. Number one, Babylon 5 animated movie. We're kind of looking forward to that. Number two, did you guys watch the new Dune trailer?
Yes.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Thoughts? Yeah. See,
Yeah.
I might be one of the few people who I'm not wholeheartedly in love with Dune. And I don't know what it is with Dune. I have this weird, like, I even feel the same about the books. I like them, but I don't like them all at the same time, if that makes any sense.
I get having a weird relationship with it. I've had a weird relationship with it my whole life. Even the TV sci-fi miniseries, the books, that David Lynch film in the 80s left scars on
David
me.
Lynch.
Like that sits weird with me even to this day, but this is probably one of the more faithful tellings, but it's definitely Denis Villeneuve's vision and it works for me, but I also like Blade Runner 2049 for the same reasons, the grandiose shots, the sounds that are made, some of the castings, everything like that. I went to see that in IMAX and it left a very good impression on me seeing it like that. And this just fills that epicness void that he does for me in these big sci-fi things. But that's a me thing. That's I know that it plays to, I'm being sympathetic to it. I'm not being super critical on it. I'm just enjoying it for what it is. I feel like Tyler is judging me.
No, not at all. No, not in the slightest. I think that's a very fair take on it, and to be like epics to widen the scope. Like, epics in general are good, right?
Mhm.
And I'm with you. I feel like it's been a while since we've had like a good epic. My take would be, I think that personally that the Dune story is very a product of its time and place,
Mhm.
and parts of it have not aged well and have not, and you can't, like, you cannot, how do I want to put this?
You can't fundamentally change it to update it for the times and still have it have
Yeah,
the same
so
gravity.
I had the same issue with Foundation.
Right.
It was fine, but it's very much of like the core philosophy of Foundation was proven wrong by time. And that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
But then if you're going to adapt it after like we have evolved and we've changed our understanding of history and hagiography, do you do an honest, like when I say honest, I mean like very faithful adaptation, or do you try to evolve it? And I feel like Foundation, like, it's so
Mhm.
hard to do with Foundation, especially if it's an easier example than Dune versus, the adaptation of Lord of the Rings was like, he changed
Right.
it a ton, but he changed it to be honest to the themes, but adapt to a different time.
Right.
While still hitting the same themes. And I feel like Foundation, again, I'm using that versus Dune because it's an easier one to handle. Foundation is very like of its time and place, and a lot of our understanding has changed. I feel like that's similar for Dune, and how like Villeneuve has been a bit too
Yeah.
slavish to the original source material, and I think it hurts it sometimes. And I just don't love it as a result.
Yeah, and same with his
Interesting.
indulgences, right? Because those are very much done to excess. And if you're not into that, you know what I mean? Like, I can totally see somebody rebuking it just because they don't like the villainousness of it. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like I could
like-
see that. It's like going to see a Quentin Tarantino movie and going, I'm not really into Quentin Tarantino movies, right?
I mean,
Like,
I was gonna make the joke of, yeah,
I was
I'm
gonna
not
make
gonna.
not enough feet.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do. I was gonna be like being like, why does Quentin Tarantino keep showing me feet? And it's like, it's just the Tarantino thing. It's just what you got. It's just the price of admission.
I explained to a friend of mine about that, and then they're like, "Oh, ew." I'm just like,
Yep.
yeah, well, it's a thing. Kevin Smith
Let
does what
us
Kevin Smith does.
move over to our topic du jour, which is the WGA strike, the Writers Guild of America strike. So just some background here. Back in 1953, the WGA agreed to a deal with studios for the re-airing of TV shows based on the idea that if a program were to be rerun, there was going to be less demand to employ TV writers. Every time a show was rerun, the writers would receive a fee, commonly known today as a residual. These fees became vital to writers, helped them make ends meet. Years and years and years move on, and here we are with the streaming revolution. It's upended and changed the old system of compensation. We've talked about this many times on this show as it pertains to not just writing, but every aspect of the arts, every aspect of production, everything. Streaming has changed everything, and unfortunately, from governments and laws to studios, no one is getting their shit together to actually get ahead of these times. So the syndication market for TV is essentially gone. Residuals for movies have also weaned, so much so that it's not really helping them. So here we go.
I have an example on point.
Go ahead.
Exact point. I pull up from a writer. This was reported by Adam Conover on CNN. You used to get, like, writers used to be able to get like a $12K check for residuals. So it's $12,000.
Yep.
And part of that is if you're a writer for a show, you usually can't do a lot of shows. Like, it's not like they're doing one show in the spring and another show in the summer. Usually you only have one show, and then your summer is like, hopefully I can work on like helping punch up a movie. And you used to be able to get like $12K. So like that would get you through the summer and into the fall before production started again. you're now looking at residuals from shows from Netflix are like $400.
Okay,
So like that's the scale we're talking about.
To that point, a writer from Jane the Virgin posted on Twitter, on social media, the residual for an episode of Jane the Virgin, and it was cents, literal cents.
Yes.
So, back in 2007, 2008, there was a 100-day strike, which affected shows and decimated Heroes, for like let's just say.
That's one of the shows that got drastically changed, 100%.
Yep. It hurt Heroes big time. Other shows were affected, but I think Heroes is the one that people always attribute to that 100-day strike back in 2007, 2008. So yes, the Writers Guild of America did secure jurisdiction over the internet, and they've established formulas for how writers would be paid when their work migrated online. But writers are saying that these residuals are still streaming based on what they would have earned if their shows aired on a network first. So, TV or movies on a network might get re-aired through syndication to other networks, onto cable TV, home video, or foreign markets. The residuals would be based on these receipts, and writers would have the benefit of public viewing data. Keyword: public viewing data. When a TV or film project is sold to a streaming company, it will likely remain on that service, so there's one fixed fee for which residuals are calculated, and because streaming services are so secretive, we don't actually have proper metrics when it comes to streaming services. For example, on TV, we have the Nielsen ratings, right? There's a very accurate and formulaic way of knowing how many people are watching your work.
I was going to say, they are also trash, but they are better than Netflix.
They're 100. There's something there at least. Right now, you ask Apple, you ask Netflix, how much does Ted Lasso get on a week? Unless they're touting some crazy metric for marketing reasons, we're not going to know, right? So this is what the issue comes down to, right? Streaming has shortened TV seasons. With shorter TV seasons, we've gone from 22 or 24 episodes on normal TV to 10-8 on streaming services. So that is a huge hit. So writers have to work more in order to make the same amounts. Today's series are much shorter, spanning 8 to 10 episodes, but writers can spend extended amounts of time working on that show, reducing their pay per episode. So as us, the consumer, are demanding better scripts that are all in canon, scripts that make sense, the MCU, shit like that, it takes them more time to pump out that one script for less episodes.
Which is also worth noting on that exact point. I think it's AMTPP, the group the group that is negotiating on behalf of the corporations, has specifically, one of their points is they want to hire fewer writers. They don't want to do writers' rooms anymore. And they want to maximize the capacity to which writing is turned more into like a gig economy. So they want to get rid of writers' rooms. And before we get into the issues for writers, for an audience, did you like when Breaking Bad did foreshadowing, or when Mando did foreshadowing? That shit only works because of a writer's room. What the corporations are pushing for is, let's say Phil, Boris, and I were all writers, where once upon a time we would all get paid to get into a room, and we'd be like, Jon Favreau would be the showrunner, and he'd be like, this season we're going to do X and Y and Z, and here's where Mando's going to end up. And we'd all be like, okay, what if he did this one episode? What if he did this? And we'd all brainstorm, and we'd come up with like a structure, and then it would be like, all right, well, Boris, you're really good at Westerns. So you're going to do this Western episode with we're going to have a guest star, a Timothy Oliphant type. It'll be great. You'll go write that. And then Phil will go write this other episode. So we'd all get our dailies and our wage for being in the writer's room. And then we'd also get being lead writer on an episode. And generally, like, everyone in the writer's room would know, like, oh, other people are going to come in, and for Boris's episode with the cool sheriff in Mandalorian, people are going to come in and like, oh, we're going to tweak the jokes a little bit. We're going to punch it up a little bit. We're going to make it the best work. But Boris will still get lead writing credit. And part of that is because that helps determine who gets what residuals, who gets what for this and that. They want to make it so that writer's room is either smaller or doesn't exist. Which in turn means that, like, they want it to be like Jon Favreau's in a room by himself. And he goes like, well, I need 8 episodes. I don't know, Boris, write an episode. Here's where Mando needs to be at the start. Here's where he needs to be at the end. And that makes it that much harder for Boris to be like, well, what are the other episodes? What am I, like, building off of? How do I build a larger thing?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Like, it's just that is the result. So
Yep.
It might work for The Simpsons, but if you want to show like Breaking Bad, Mandalorian, it doesn't. Like, it will make the shows worse.
Since 2017, the union has been able to introduce limits to how long writers can work on an episode, and the studio pays more if they want to work beyond that. Currently, episodic fee is limited to 2.4 weeks of work. Not all work is covered by this protection, and it also has earnings cap. Writers are looking to extend those protections and have them apply to more members. So here's the other thing. Before, television producers would order a show by first commissioning a pilot, and if it was successful, producers would then assemble a writer's room to write 22 to 24 episodes over 10 months. Writers would get at least minimum weekly fee, plus a compensation for writing an episode of the series. All that would go toward qualifying for their health and pension plans. Today, streaming companies, they don't technically have a pilot anymore.
Nope.
They order a show without the filming of a pilot. They typically have a small group of writers to hurry up and write this season out before the production even starts. This has led to circumstances where writers feel they're underpaid, as they are tasked with creating an entire season of television over a short period of time.
It is worth noting on that exact point that if we look back to, I think it's to 2018, I'm just looking at my notes, but over the last 5 years, writers' salaries have decreased by an average of 4%. That's pre-inflation.
Yep.
That's not like, oh, their salary was flat. Their salaries have gone down compared to inflation. And there have been some heartbreaking stories that have done the rounds because of that. I assume y'all have seen the Alex O'Keefe one, but we're going to reiterate here. He's one of the writers for Bear, which is a fantastic show.
Phenomenal.
Fantastic show. Alex O'Keefe has talked about he lived in Brooklyn. It was one of the best shows on television. It was making insane money for the studio. And he could not afford heating in his apartment. And when the Bear won an award, the tie he bought was on a credit card because he didn't have any. He had negative money in his bank account.
Yep.
And that is
among 100% ludicrous. I'm almost done my my research. Among options being considered by the studios, and this is why they're fighting, they want to increase minimum payments for these rooms and having minimum staff size related to the number of episodes ordered. That's what the writers want.
The WGA does.
The WGA wants. WGA wants. Sorry. Now, with the rising inflation and shifts in how writers are compensated, writers are also pushing for higher minimum pay rates across range of services. Writers have argued that fewer of them are working, and those that are making a lot less money. The union has previously said more writers than ever are working at or near minimum rates, and that those rates haven't kept pace with rising costs. Inflation has hit 9.1%, and writers are actually making a lot less than that. Typically, the WGA bargains for a 3% increase in these quote-unquote minimums. Some board members have been calling for a doubling of minimums across the board, which could be a non-starter for the studios. So one of the major things happening here overall that we're seeing is writers so that they can work, they're taking less and accepting less and less and less. It's in a way, and I'm not blaming them, I'm just putting out everything out there. Yep. In a way, they've kind of created this problem because the studios say, okay, we'll give you this, blah, 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 blah. right? And it's less than the minimum. It's less than what they should be taking, but they'll accept it because they got to work. They got to make ends meet, right?
But they can't actually. So they cannot accept those contracts and be part of the WGA. Like, you cannot work under contract with something else. There's a lot of complicated stuff going on here, and
yeah,
it's a really awesome start. I do want to break some more numbers into it,
please, because I've done my summary.
So a couple people who are very smarter than me have done the numbers. I'm going to quote Adam Conover a little bit because it's Adam Conover. He's former College Humor, had his own show on. What was the first show on? I think he had a show on TBS and now had a show on Netflix with Barack Obama as an EP, which is insane, but that's separate. Adam Conover has been one of the spokespeople for the strike because he's a comedian, he's really good at speaking in front of a camera, and he's really good at standing up to reporters. It's fantastic.
Yeah. He
points out that if you look at the writers industry, you have this selection at one end who is, let's call it a spade. It's your Neil Gaiman, he's in WGA. You have your Patton Oswalt, also WGA. But you have these writers at the top who even they would admit they're fine, right? Neil Gaiman does not need this for himself. It's for everyone else. And it's for setting the terms. And because he doesn't want them coming from him in 5 to 10 years. But if you take out this top 10%-ish, if you get rid of Patton Oswalt and Neil Gaiman, who, like, when they hire one of them to write, you're going to both get a really good episode. But also, you can advertise, like, Patton Oswalt is guest starring or guest writing. And that in itself has its own value. If you get rid of them, the average salary for a Hollywood writer right now for a television show is $20,000 a year.
Wow.
And that's in California.
Wow.
You also need to think about that if you are a television writer, you need to pay your agent and your manager out of that. So you're losing percentage points off of your 20K. And anyone who's like, well, don't get an agent or a manager, then you don't get
you can't. You get the I think people have to recognize that. You can't just walk up to a studio and say, I want to work. There are ways to do this, and the ways that you do this is working through agents and managers. It's like the rules say you don't sell a house without a real estate agent, right? It's kind of like it's to the extreme of that, right? You cannot even begin to get your work without these people in place. There's 100%. One last part that I want to talk about, but you can finish.
I was going to say, and we can criticize that part of the model.
Oh yeah.
But, like, we can't change that through this negotiation. And it's worth noting, like, as you said, like, part of what writers and agents agents and managers are doing here is they're both getting you into the room, but also, like, increasingly, they are doing things like, if you're a newer writer who has a pilot and has made, like, let's say you had, like, a movie or two, did well in the festival circuit, but didn't make good money, but it was, like, a critical darling that lost a ton of money, they're going to help you market yourself better. And they're going to help you, like, polish stuff and put you in touch with people. Like, they are bringing value. Yeah. Whether or not they're bringing value that matches the money, different question. Different thing. But they're bringing value right now. And this negotiation, like, it has to take place assuming they're going to continue to exist.
Yeah. Here's the big one. And the WGA is putting this forward, the AMPTP. They're not even looking or thinking about this, or at least they're not playing their cards that they are. Similar to streaming. And I think the WGA kind of had that wake-up moment after the last contract settlement, and they're looking into the future. They're looking into technology, and we're talking about AI. There's concerns about AI taking over writing and alleged to have been glossed over by the studios. The WGA wanted to regulate the use of AI and wanted assurance that it could not be used to write or rewrite literary material, nor could it be used as a source material. The AMPTP rejected the Guild's proposals, countering by offering annual meetings to discuss the advancements in technology.
Which we should point out. Annual meetings are a nothing. That's a nothing offer.
That's
No,
bullshit.
especially on
Because
the
that's-
technology that moves by the hour.
That too, but like, hey, Phil, let's say you're up for your bonus for the year, and your boss says instead of matching inflation, we'll have a meeting every 3 months, and we'll see how you're doing.
That's
That means you're not
literally-
getting a raise.
Hey, Tyler,
Yeah.
Tyler, crazy concept about the corporate world. That's what we call self-assessments and what do you call them?
PAS.
Yearly.
Yeah.
Sorry?
PAS.
Yeah.
And the only reason I bring it up is because I've
Yeah.
seen several people online defend it. Like, they said they're going to do annual meetings, and like taking a meeting is a nothing. It's a nothing burger.
Mhm.
No, I know. We do that all the time at Red Punch Boys. We had an annual general meeting that was performative, right?
But, and that's what I'm getting at, right?
You give you give information, but you're not really there to
You're not
do
making
much other
decisions.
than you're not making decisions. You're just hearing people out to influence future decisions, maybe, like at best.
But this isn't even that, right? Because
Yeah.
if you are filed as an NGO, your AGM has certain legal requirements, and this wouldn't even have that. This could just be like, oh yeah, we're on a meeting. We'll take written submissions, which just means like you send an email and they send it straight to the trash.
So, yeah. My last point before I completely give the talking stick to you, Tyler, is this. This is how far apart they are. If you add everything that the WGA is asking for, it amounts to $429 million per year. The AMPTP's current offer sits at $86 million annually, with 48% of that is for the minimum floor wage increase. That's how separate the two sides are right now.
It's also worth noting, as has been reported by several places, the negotiation period before they went on strike was very short.
Yes.
And what that usually represents is that one side is just like, how about you go fuck yourself?
Yeah, that's literally it.
Which is like, let's call a spade. In a strike like this, both sides are going to play the PR game, or try to. And, both sides have a ton of incentives to try to make their position look as good as possible.
Yeah. I've seen Twitter stuff already where people are like, I need my MCU. I can't believe that the writers' rooms are being so guilty because, they're just going in defense of the corporations. And I'm like, come on, man, even the actors are on side with this. They're like, we get paid lots. Play these people. We're nothing without these people on screen. Like,
the actors know that, let's say, if some of these AMPTP things go forward, things like writers' rooms, we already talked about this, the quality of a narrative is going to go down. The canon of a show can ultimately go down, and guess who's the front line of that? The actors.
That's not even just all. The other side is, like, when you negotiate contracts, let's put on our business hats.
Well, I know exactly where we're going with this, but yes, go ahead.
But it's good for the audience too, right? Like,
for sure.
You go after the people who have the least negotiating clout first, right? And it sucks, and I don't like it, but the WGA has a lot less clout than SAG, which is the Screen Actors Guild.
Right.
Because if SAG goes on strike, like, you're in some trouble.
Yeah.
Because you lose everyone.
But if you can negotiate and get the WGA, the WEG to some of these things, it sets precedence for future negotiations with the other unions.
Yeah, and it makes, and you're right, that's 100% part of it, and it's an opportunity for corporations and business people to try a bunch of these arguments to see how they do, and seeing people who are going to go on Twitter and lick some boots, because people think boots taste real good, apparently.
Yep.
But actors, and these are not your Chris Pratts, but people who are more like your up and comers, and this was a piece that was shared without who it was, because they wanted to remain anonymous. This was reported in the Mary Sue. But actors with Netflix have said that recent contracts have included clauses of you sign away your voice print for AI to recreate your voice.
Yep.
So all of a sudden it's like, oh, actors, like, we don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
And that's
somewhere George Lucas is saying, it's my time to come back.
I mean, then we all remember the scripts he wrote for 7, 8, and 9. We're like, no, get back in the fucking dumpster. So I have a big point I want to put up front about the AI thing, because the AI thing I think it's an important thing that's being debated, but we've done it a lot.
Yeah.
And so many people involved in the debate don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 100%.
And that is like, let's pretend AI can do everything they want it to do. Let's pretend it's perfect. Let's pretend it's not just a way of breaking unions. It's not just a way of like let's pretend ChatGPT 5 can do a SAG job. What comes next?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, we don't need accountants anymore. Don't need lawyers soon after. Don't need programmers.
Entertainment.
Yeah, we're living in Star Trek.
But I'm getting
even in
there,
entertainment, I know podcasters who are scared shitless.
Yeah. Well, you won't need podcasters. You don't need actors, because you'll just be like, you'll just get like an actor's job will be, oh, just go do a few different emotional things, and you're gonna run through a few different versions of like the lazy brown fox jumped over the sleeping dog, or whatever.
90% of radio is already done via a computer. The only thing that is human might be a producer, might be the technical person, and might be the on-air personality. That's it.
And but have you guys watched the next week? Mayhem, Electric Mayhem comes out, the Muppet thing.
Yep.
But there's a short little bit that's going around with all of the guys going into sound booths to record a song. And the guy's just like Zoot shows up without a saxophone. He goes, "Oh man, I forgot my sax. Thank you. We got it." And the guy makes his song, and Animal, you got to do the drums. Hits a button, drum sound, perfect. We're done. The song's done. And he starts playing it back, and they're like, "Oh, this is absolutely positively, But that's what we're getting at in support of, I guess, what we're talking about. Is there's no creativity going on anymore, and nobody has a job to do.
No. I was gonna say, let's say the creativity is still there somehow. Like, let's just steel man. Let's make best case scenario.
Okay.
How do you not end up with like, okay, cool, we're gonna have two classes of people. We're gonna have owners, so we're gonna have people like your Elon Musk, who just owns a bunch of shit, and like the rest of us do the jobs that can't be automated. Because that's what it seems like we're moving towards.
Yep.
Right? Like, hey, Boris, how much longer till sales just becomes like a series of forms?
Yeah. Oh, we're close there. We're close there.
Right?
Trust me, two AI computers talking to each other and finding the mathematical best formula that benefits both sides. Boom. Done.
And again, like,
oh my
I have
God.
a bunch of critiques of AI that it
I
doesn't
just had like the eureka moment of, oh my God, my job is like, I'm on a fucking counter.
No, we're all like, if AI is as good as these evangelists who don't know what the fuck they're talking about claim it is, like, your only options are a lot of us starve to death, or we have to create communism.
Yeah, it's
like those are your only two options, and that's like, well, I don't think Elon Musk likes communism.
So we're all going to Mars, baby, and starving to death.
I mean, Elon Musk doesn't understand that Mars doesn't have a magnetosphere. Let's talk about that for a while. No, but
he's gonna send Joe Rogan up there to podcast.
That's what I'm getting at, right? Like, it's this big problem that, again, it feels weird because it feels like we keep chipping away at parts of this big problem of like, Joe Rogan will be fine because he has enough brand recognition that you won't listen to the Joe Rogan AI podcast. But if you want to weigh in, or if you're like a medium podcast, it's going to be increasingly like, again, if AI can do this, what do you do?
No, yeah, I know. I just go build Lego.
Right?
You won't afford it. You won't be able to afford it.
Yeah, I won't be able to afford it.
You can barely afford it now.
Yeah, it's true.
And
No,
again,
okay,
like,
so
and
okay,
we talked about it. Like
so-
AI can't do a bunch of this stuff. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
people have done tests of like, you know, write a script to this show, and it's trash. And
it's garbage.
a lot of people say AI, like people who say, "Oh, AI just looks at a bunch of art and thinks," do not understand what current AI is.
Nope.
That's not how any of it works.
There's
and
much scarier stuff.
Well,
than
it's like
what
that. Like
current
that
AI
misunderstands how brains work and how computers work. They're just probability clouds.
Yep, exactly. If then.
Yeah. So, yeah, we can honestly we can go in circles with AI, and honestly, I want to get into the whole AI debate
because it's
for sure.
an issue.
So,
Yeah, well, I think we're all gonna, ultimately fall on the side of the. To me, the logical path is to hope that they get this resolved with the writers' rooms and get the writers' rooms back and get these people paid properly. Like, I am so pro union on this, it's not even funny, right? Like,
I mean, I'm with you.
yeah, I know it's shooting fish in a barrel. I know Todd from Tennessee might not be. I don't know.
Well, anytime Todd from Tennessee, I'll talk to you about unions. Be like, hey, do you like your 5-day work week?
Yeah, exactly. Do you like not working at the age of 8? Do you like not working at 100?
America's brought that back, so.
I know. Fuck.
Yeah.
Sake. So I don't know why I said like that. So let us go back to talk about the actual. So we kind of laid everything out. At this point, we can easily go around in circles and say, "No, this is gonna happen. No, that's gonna happen." Blah, 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 blah. So I'm just gonna ask straight up, not ask straight up, but let's talk about some of the fallout that we're already seeing. Right, shows are being canceled. We're already starting to see late night television not. There's no Conan O'Brien to make stuff up on the spot, so late night TV is essentially shut down now. SNL, they're shut down, right?
Yeah, and a bunch of them I've said it's because they're on side.
Pete Davidson, I know, joined the picket lines yesterday on Sunday and started handing out pizza and stuff.
Yep. I was gonna say, I also want to give some props.
Yeah,
and I want to give some important context. A lot of people, your John Olivers, your Seth Meyers, are doing stuff like they're buying pizza. Because some of them are still part of the guild and some of them aren't. And that's complicated. And I don't want to get into like individuals. Broadly speaking, a lot of the people in positions like that are supporting the strike.
Mm-hmm.
And are doing stuff. I also want to point out that the WGA is fundraising and has a separate fund to pay people like PAs, like camera people who are being hurt by the strike. The WGA is like, the corporation is going to take care of you. We have a fund to try to make life easier for you. And I feel like that is an important thing that a lot of places aren't covering.
Interesting.
Of like, the WGA is like, and I want to throw it out there, that's insane.
Politically.
They're
politically,
people.
optic-wise, you have to think of it this way, because the studios at this point, they can easily say, you know what, let's make this strike go far, then everyone else is going to start infighting because the PAs aren't working, the camera people aren't working, lighting people aren't working, et cetera, on productions, right? So if this strike goes 200 days, 100 plus days, let's just compare it to the last strike, they're gonna start infighting, and they're gonna go on our side, right? So
whoa. Have you been reading Das Kapital by Karl Marx? Because it sounds like you're getting really weirdly into class solidarity.
No, but
all I can say is I heard Disney
No.
Plus have restarted shooting Andor season 2, which did not go over well for me.
Wow.
But
once the writing
Disney
is done.
being Disney, I guess the writing is done, but
Stranger
No,
Things have shut down, other shows have shut down, but it's just interesting to kind of see. So it's smart of the WGA to do that, right? Because
100%.
they know the game that the studio is most likely to play, right? So
it's trying to get
politically, optics, and I'm glad that you brought that up. because that's a very important thing. It's I did it like it took me like an hour into my research to find that little bit about that fund, and I forgot to write down the name.
There are like 5 separate funds, because there is the, and some of them have cute names, which I don't, and this is me being a grumpy old man. I don't love some of the cutesy names, because there's like the WGA Pizza Fund, which is like, it's the fund for buying meals for everyone affected by the strike. And I'm like, why do you have to call it the Pizza Fund? Like, that makes you sound less serious.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a separate bit. But there's a few different funds they have. There are several you can donate to directly, and there are several that WGA is like, we cannot accept money via these certain avenues because of how union laws work in the States.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
So it's a mess. So, I guess the only question that I can really ask is, do you think that this strike is going to last shorter or longer than the 100 days of the last one?
That's a good question. So
you're getting lawyered now, Boris.
Well, I also have I have in my notes a strategy section of, because that's the question, right? Is to go into negotiations. Both sides have made it very clear of the gap is too wide for the current pressure each is facing.
Mm-hmm.
So both are like, we think we can outlast you until your pressure gets too rough. So on one side, you have corporations who they think they have enough content in the can that they can outlast them. Yeah. And the other side is, we don't think you do.
Yeah.
So you're right. Like, Andor started filming, which, the writing might be mostly done on that. That's fine. Ted Lasso's like in post production. Like, I think it's
they're in post.
Yeah, it's like the last episodes need just a little bit of spit and polish, right? The writers don't care, and the writers aren't fighting that, right? The writers are like, yeah, you got to put that out. We're not pushing back on that. That's the deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I was looking into it, and it was very much of like, you have Ted Lasso, which is, this is the last season, and viewership is falling. You have Barry, which this is the last season, and viewership is falling.
Succession, last season. Succession,
yep.
Last season, and that's in the can.
Yep, and viewership is not, but I was also going like, that one, viewership's not falling.
Not falling.
Marvel has a few things coming out, and Disney, all of them have other issues they're dealing with, right? Like, you're looking at Loki 2, and you're like, you have so many other issues they're dealing with.
Some would say they have a major issue.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss. Perfection.
Later, guys.
We're done.
Good night.
Wrap it. We're done.
One day, I say this every time I have a really bad joke near the end of our episode. I'm just gonna Sopranos it, and it's just gonna go pitch dark. That's it. Thank you for watching.
So
I'm here till Thursday. Have the roast.
Yeah.
So that's all important stuff, right? I think it's too early to tell, right? And I think part of it is, like, in the last one, what was it? Conan and Daily Show kept going. And Conan kept going because he had a weird contractual obligation.
Yep.
Daily Show kept going, and no one really knew at the time why. And if I recall correctly, it came out later that it was, if they stopped, John Oliver got deported.
Ooh.
If I remember correctly, and they talked to the rest of the writers and kind of cut a side deal with the writers of we're gonna keep production going with just John Stewart and John Oliver to make sure John Oliver doesn't get deported, because I think he was engaged at that point. If I'm my memory's not great, but it was a weird situation. And Jon Stewart the entire time was pro Writers Guild. He was I can't talk about this because that requires nuance and grace I can't do with the writing staff.
Yeah.
I have 2 more subtopics I'd like to hit.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
cool.
Let's hit them.
Number 1 is I want to talk about like the high level finances of it.
Yes.
We've talked about a little bit of like, what was it? Like the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery made $250 million, which is like, that's enough to cover most of what they're asking for.
Yeah.
Another person pointed out that if, what was it? It was Rahm Emanuel and one other producer took pay cuts down to a mere $63 million a year each.
How are they going to be feeding themselves?
That would
air
also
in their
cover
tires.
like that would also cover it. So we are seeing that there's this larger issue of, and I think this is part of it, is these executives, and we're seeing in several industries, are making insane take homes.
They're getting their golden parachute while they're working.
Exactly, right? I've seen a couple places report that all of this, the context we aren't talking about, is writers, when you look at all of Hollywood, writers are about 3% of total finances on a project.
Yep.
So, like, you have the big companies are fighting them on, like, half to 1% of the budget.
Wow.
Mhm.
All this over.
It's ridiculous when you really
Drop in the
honestly
bucket.
sit down and think about it. And I think that's the important part. Is like, what are the studios really fighting for here?
And that's what I want. That was the other issue I want to talk about. Is part one is they need to send a message, right? They cannot, from their point of view, if they cave on this, all of a sudden your camera people and your CGI people are going to get on strike. And we already know, and we've heard the reports from VFX being like, yeah, part of the reason She-Hulk gets jank is they had no time and they had no money to do VFX.
Yep.
And, you know, Marvel's getting notorious for that, much less Disney as a whole. Like, I would argue that's one of the biggest problems with Mandalorian is what I'm guessing were downstream of there was no money for VFX and CGI.
Yeah, and you've got the volume effect too, right? Like there's big backlash over use and restrictions on that affect the show.
You said it.
Yeah.
So I want to. I think that leads to the other part of it I want to talk about of like, why should our audience care about it, and why I think our audience should be on the writer's side.
Mm-hmm.
So I have two big tents. So number one is why you should care at a high level, and why you should care for your next summer movies.
We talked a little bit about it just in terms of the pure entertainment value, why you should care about it. You know, people like a coherent story. People like the MCU. People are demanding. We are, as consumers, as viewers, we're demanding a lot from a series now, and this is not possible without writers.
There's that. That's part of it. Another part of it is part of the purpose of the WGA's advocacy for this thing is making sure there's entry-level jobs.
Yes.
So we've talked about this a lot of, we are seeing in a lot of creative industries, especially, entry-level jobs are disappearing. There's like, it's increasingly hard to get like a job that you're like, I'm just starting to be a writer, or I'm just starting to be an artist, or I'm just starting to be a sound designer or whatever, and I can pay rent. And part of the effect of the AMTPP, whatever it is, position is those positions don't exist. And part of that is to make sure that they keep stricter control. So you're going to end up in a position where, remember that thing we had a few months ago where everyone was bitching about Nepo babies?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no entry-level jobs that pay well, the only people who get jobs are Nepo babies.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, you will not get another Taika Waititi. You will not get another... I mean, you'll not get another...
Dude,
Russo
you
brothers.
won't get Ben Affleck and Matt Damon.
Right? No Russo brothers, because they were junior writers on Community.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on purpose. Part of what this is corporations looking forward of, it's a really good position to be in is making people pay for their own training on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. And then you can show up when they're mid-tier and you can be like, hey, I'm buying you out. And you can buy their IP for their comic or their YouTube series or whatever. And instead of it being, your Ted Lasso, which they basically were able to buy a weird bit, they can buy a YouTube series for a fraction of the price.
We've seen this. We've seen some YouTube people do the crossover, right?
And exactly, right? But they want to make it even easier for them to just say, and we don't want to pay as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in turn, what this means is you're not going to see as interesting and creative work. Because you're not, right? Because
no, you're not.
It's harder and harder for people to make a kind of good living doing this work. And I want to, before I get into my other big topic for this, I want to draw the comparison to us of like, we aren't like this job, for lack of a better term, like it's not just us being on camera, right? Like we all put prep in.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we all do our research stuff. And like, how do you like? We don't get paid based upon like our total hours. Like it's not salary. If and when we get paid, it's an output based pay, and that's a lot of my creative work. It's based on your output. It's not based upon the time it takes.
Yep.
Which the result is sometimes that means I make sloppier work because I can't not, and I don't like it. But if you've ever watched a TV show and you're like, this makes no goddamn sense, it's because they didn't have the time or the money to fix it.
Right.
Exactly.
They need to get paid. Needed to get it done.
Yeah. If you want me to write a book or a story, and I did this once editing, as I pointed out, because I was lucky. I had an editing gig and I knew a lot about horses because I grew up on a horse farm. And I was like, this entire book does not understand how horses work. And they got me for a steal because they got lucky I knew that.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
And people are like, if you don't care about horses, you're gonna be like, I don't give a shit. But think about that in every topic, right? Like if you watch a thing and you're like, why does the hacking make no goddamn sense? That's gonna get worse, not better.
Yep.
The other side of it that I want to touch on is people like bitching about like writers aren't creative anyways. That's not writers' fault right now.
That's not writers' fault right now.
God, no.
Like, I'm the first. I think we've all bitched a little bit, different amounts about Star Wars being...
Yeah.
I mean, if I may, it's not living up to the potential.
Correct.
Like, I think we'd all agree on that.
Yep.
That's, like, that's not because the writing staff is lazy.
Yeah.
Like, they're doing their best. There are rules from on high. And I would argue probably a lot of it is rules of things they can't do.
Yep. It comes from the boardroom.
Yeah. And
I think that much is clear.
And again, I've seen
that's in the MCU, a lot of other places, right?
100%.
Like these are all committee decisions that go to these targets that they set, and they don't necessarily jive with what the creatives want. Like that's the big scuttlebutt rumor about Star Wars right now. Well, and John wanted to do things a certain way, and the executive suite said, no, you need to fix this Grogu situation because Grogu sells dolls.
Yep.
Like, that has to get fixed. You can't spend a season of Mando, him just taking care of Mandalore and his Mandalorian roots. You need to get Grogu in there.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way of putting it. And taken from Tom Vaughn, who's a Hollywood writer, talking about this, it's become a marketing issue because it's easier to market awareness than to pitch a new idea.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
It is like if you're a marketing person, and I've had to do marketing, it's so much easier to be like, hey, remember that thing you love? I have more. That's so much easier than like, okay, look, this is gonna be this weird fucking movie. It's gonna be a weird movie. I cannot tell you a lot about it because anything I tell you threatens to ruin it. But it's about a guy who's going to self-help groups and then meets someone who suggests
Fight Club
violence might be the option. Exactly, right?
Yeah.
But like, you can't get a Fight Club anymore.
Yeah. No more Chuck.
So here's, I did it again. What's wrong? There's like a million things going through my mind today. And I keep forgetting what I wanted to ask. And it was a really good question about, so we've complained, we haven't complained. So, in terms of quality, in terms of kind of to your point, Tyler, here's the dystopian society of entertainment that scares me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, we've all seen cable news network and the lack of reporting and the lack of integrity and the lack of a lot of stuff and, whatever, because of 24-hour cable news, right? Because of streaming services, because of stuff like that, because content is king, I fear that the future of the quality of what we watch is going to be the equivalent of a Tucker Carlson or a Don Lemon or whatever, because the effect of so much content needing to be out there with less people actually being able to write this stuff, if at all, right? Like, I'm just seeing that we're going to go into, remember in the 90s, right before reality TV made it huge because it was actually watchable.
Well, and part of the reason reality TV got a second life was the writer's strike.
The writer's strike.
Because it's dirt cheap. You don't pay writers as much.
You have to pay, well...
You still pay writers because...
You have to pay non-union writers to do some stuff. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Which, WWE, let's just remember, WWE right now has a show going on live with a writer's room, but they're all non-union. So, that's that.
Oh, what a surprise.
Right? WWE doing something mean? Doing something bad? Nah. Remember, they're all independent contractors.
Well, and that's what all this is, right? This is increasingly like, we want to make you all independent contractors.
Yeah.
We want to pay you the bare minimum. How does this end? I mean, if we let this keep going, you're going to end up with a more extreme version of what we already have. Yes. Right? Like,
which is the dystopian society of entertainment that I kind of described.
100%. Yep. I was going to say, you'll have moments. You'll have these individual moments that bubble up. Because you'll get the rare bit of outsider art that will break through. You'll get someone who'll have something brilliant on YouTube or a stand-up comedy bit, and they'll break through. But based on everything I've read, we're past the peak of new people getting it.
Is it possible, though? Here's the last little wrench that I'm going to throw in this before we wrap up the episode. And is it humanly possible for YouTube and people like us getting more attention because, regular TV is that shit at that point, right? Where you're getting self-made shows over YouTube and whatever other places are, right? You're getting more video podcasts. You're getting more streaming.
I'm going to throw it right back at you. What's the difference?
That's exactly it.
Right? Like, Apple owns a chunk of podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spotify still isn't making money. So, like,
no,
they're looking for someone to buy them. Amazon certainly, like, the end goal of a bunch of these companies are, we're going to have TV and podcasts and, like, your YouTube, for lack of a better term, of just, like, then YouTube adds more ads, and then it gets worse.
Yeah.
You end and the other part of it is YouTube is more insidious in how their thumbs are on the scale.
Yep.
And anytime you have a gatekeeper, you're going to have someone's thumbs on the scale. And I'm not pretending that's not the case, but like, you know, back in the 90s, when all of us in Canada watched Teletoon, we knew whose thumb was on the scale. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
And the difference was we could turn down 2 channels and we were on TBS, who's owned by someone else.
Yeah.
All of YouTube is owned by the same company.
Yep.
And how often are people who aren't me going to Nebula?
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, because obviously we don't know how long things are going to take, we don't know where this is going to lead us, I think the only conclusion that we can really put forth here is, number one, I hope the Writers Guild of America gets what they're asking for, and number two, this doesn't take too long.
I would bet this is a minimum 70 days.
Yeah, fair.
I would not be surprised if we hit over 100, but I would bet minimum 70.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would just, you know, for us to do our prediction bit, because the audience is going to want something to call us out on.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Or be like, look, right on, like, right? Like, I'm betting 70 days minimum. Go for it.
I'm thinking at least, because the last writer's strike happened right in the middle of the season. This is happening right at the end of the season, so pressure is going to amount, you know, come late July when scripts for season premiere season starts.
And quite a few big cash cows are on the line.
Exactly.
Stranger Things is on the line.
Mm-hmm.
With the new Game of Thrones, House of Dragons is on the line.
Yep.
There's a couple of big movies that, like, Blade is being delayed because of this.
Deadpool 3.
Yep. Right? Like, there's a few big things right now that are on the line.
Yeah, and that's what I was explaining to my friend about this strike too, because I'm like, if you tell me that you've got Hugh Jackman all jacked up, ready to reprise Wolverine, and then you're saying, okay, well, we've lost our window on that, and now the chances of getting Ryan and Hugh Jackman in the same window again might be 2.5 years from now.
Yep.
You don't know what that schedule is like. And that means that project is dead, essentially. It's going to have to go and retool and be...
Or it's going to be something really funky, like they're never across from each other.
Exactly. That's... And yeah, I wonder who the heroes of this writer's strike is going to be. So with that said, Phil, let us tell our listeners how they can get a hold of us.
You can track us down on www.itscanonpodcast.com, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at It's Canon Podcast, email at show@itscanonpodcast.com. You can basically find us anywhere where you find podcasts, and as well, patreon.com/SNME Radio. We are friends with them, so make sure to go and give them some of your hard-earned money if you love wrestling and everything else that they produce. And if you like what you've heard, please leave a like this video, and check us out on YouTube at It's Canon Podcast, and turn on your bells and notifications for when we drop these episodes.
Thanks for that, Phil. And thank you to the listeners and viewers for watching, for listening, for however you interact with us. It means a lot to us. And you've been listening, watching the It's Canon Podcast, the show where we chat about anything and everything, and the best part of it all is that it's all in canon. He's Phil, he's Tyler, I'm Boris. Until next time, goodbye.